Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys had a great time enjoying our second service here at church, which is the online service for you guys. I know that Dave came in here and he sat down very quickly and swiftly, and he's acting like he wasn't here almost late.
What are you talking about?
Oh, Dave, don't give that to me. All right, well, we're so glad that you guys are joining us for the post show. As always, we're going to go around. We're going to say who we are because there is somebody that you might not have seen on the post show, but you have seen on the pre-show. Shout out to Lexi. It's her birthday. We know that you went on a little birthday trip.
Birthday,
We miss you
Lexi.
so much. We can't wait for you to be back. And again, happy birthday. But again, let's go around and let's say our name and our favorite pizza topping.
Oh my,
Oh my goodness! This is
We're gonna throw
this is like the remote pre-show part.
Yeah, we're going to throw.
So you're good at this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're going to throw a little icebreaker in here.
Let's
Okay,
do
so
it.
who should go first?
You were late, so you can
Yeah.
go first.
I will. Okay, my name is Dave, and my favorite pizza topping is. Can I just say veggies?
Oh.
Yeah,
No.
I'm actually a veggie pizza kind of person.
Pick one.
Although
Pick one veggie.
pick one, there you have to put all the vegetables together, otherwise it's like blah. So I like all the vegetables together, but I also love a good like barbecue chicken pizza with pineapple.
Yeah.
Now he's just
Yes.
listening
That's
to his
my
favorite
favorite.
pizza.
That's my
He's not even picking a topic. All right, let's change the question
So-
for Dave. What's your favorite kind of pizza?
It's hard. He's very passionate about his pizza.
Yeah.
Oh, I get very passionate about my pizza.
All right,
can
let's
see.
go. Let's go next to Dave.
I am Elizabeth, and my favorite pizza topping is kind of controversial. It's pineapple.
Yes.
Oh, I don't think that's I
Why
love that.
you? Do you like?
Well, yeah, with chicken and barbecue
Well,
sauce.
I
You
think-
guys are weird.
I think you might be outnumbered here.
Yes.
I am outnumbered. I just.
Josh, you just looked at me with like so much sadness in your eyes. You're
As
like,
Pastor Dave talking about, I'm a part of the oppressed today.
Oh, no,
I'm just
Josh.
teasing. I'm totally just kidding. My name is Josh. I'm one of the pastors here. My favorite pizza topping is got to be Italian sausage. Love Italian sausage.
That makes sense.
It does make sense. I'm
Yep,
very
that makes
Italian,
sense.
so I love my Italian.
Very Italian. Yep.
And last one.
My name is Layla Wagner, and I also do the pre-show. I like pineapple.
yeah, Layla.
Woohoo! Cheer for
guess
pineapple,
what?
people.
Remind me, chat, to never ever ask about pizza toppings again in this post.
You know what? We'll make you an Italian sausage and pineapple pizza.
I think that would go
I
pretty
think
good.
that. What do you think?
When's National
would be
Pizza Day?
bad.
We'll have pizza on the post show if it's on
Yeah.
National
Oh my gosh,
Pizza
that's
Day.
so
I'd
funny.
love that.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. All right, Dave. You know what I'm about to ask you because I've asked you for the past 2 weeks.
You have.
All right, you got like a minute
Even
and a
though
half.
during our midweek meeting, I go, please don't ask me that question. You do anyway.
All right. Summarize your message in a minute and a half synopsis.
Okay, God, in his infinite wisdom and love, created human beings uniquely. But he created two different kinds of human beings, male and female. And that was intended to bless human beings. We now live in a day where that design of God is largely being dismantled in the area of gender. And that dismantling is causing damage to human beings. It's a part of the disintegration where what God has put together, it's being separated. And so we outline some ways that we as believers and followers of Jesus might be able to be salt and light, to be agents of love and grace in the world, in just helping us through this traumatic and painful time of gender disorientation.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. And again, as always, I feel like at least me and Layla thank you maybe like 100 times last week during the post show for talking about these very difficult hot button topics. But at the very end of the message, which you kind of just alluded to, you gave us 5 action steps that we can take. And in today's post show, we're just going to go deeper into each one of these action steps and how we
Okay,
can
cool.
apply this to our lives whenever we leave this building or finish watching this live stream this morning. So the first one. Accept yourself as God designed you. What are some pointers, and anybody can answer this, how can we do this more in our day-to-day lives? How can we accept ourselves as God designed us?
Elizabeth looks like she has an answer.
Oh, you got voluntold.
I know. I don't. Oh man, Dave, you're gonna have to help me out on
This
this.
is her first one, and
Yeah.
you did that to her, Dave?
Okay,
Come on,
so-
Dave.
Dave.
So people may not know this, but everybody should. Elizabeth is our social media director here at Connections, all right? So all of the informative, cute, funny, pastoral staff embarrassing things that you see on social media basically is the creation of Elizabeth. Yeah. And what Elizabeth is doing is she's expressing who she is as she was created by God. And that comes from her creativity and her imagination. It comes from the artistic nature that she has and her understanding of the ability of that to communicate on a deep level. But it also gets streamed through her gender because she has a unique way of looking at things in her objectivity. Her dad is also very creative, very artistic, but they view things differently because it's also colored by their gender. So what I see Elizabeth doing as she directs our social media is expressing the totality of who she is, including her femininity in helping to communicate realities about us and about God.
Yeah. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So what I hear you saying is one of the ways that we can accept ourselves as God designed us is by going and diving headfirst into the gifts that God has given us.
Completely.
What are some ways that we can find out these gifts?
I bet Layla knows.
I know we have a special little program here at Connections that helps you get in tune with your gifts, and I'll let one of you guys talk about those. But I just wanted to add, too, that to your earlier question, what came to mind for me was embracing your imperfections, which I think is really hard, especially for me because I am a perfectionist through and through. I love full control. I have extreme anxiety, and that's been really hard to be okay with, you know? So I appreciate and definitely think it's important around, you know, being comfortable and accepting your gender, but I think even, you know, past your gender, just about like your internal makeup and your gifts and who you are, the nitty gritty, like how you're wired. That's been something that I have struggled with over the years and have picked apart like an onion, right? And really hyper focused on things when I didn't need to. And, you know, just being okay with not being okay, being okay with not being perfect, because in God's eyes, like, I am perfect the way I am, and everybody else is perfect the way that they are, you know? So just a little something to add. But yes, we have a wonderful program here at Connections. So I'll circle back. Sorry, I had a little rambling there.
No, you're answering the question. There's nothing wrong. Yeah.
So, but I'll let one of you speak to
so
those.
the class or this program that Layla is referring to is our Next Steps group. It meets every quarter, Dave? Is that kind of where it falls right now? I think it's every quarter. Pastor Perry's over that. Actually, as we speak, right across the hall from this room, they are having the second week of this current Next Steps group. I know that the third week is whenever you go into your spiritual gifts and some of the gifting that God has given you, and they help you specifically figure out a place or a ministry or something that you can get involved with here at the church or here in our community to be able to use those gifts. So if you're interested in doing that or interested in taking the test that we use to figure those out, you can just go to our website and you can fill out a Connect card, and we can email you a link to that or help you get signed up for one of those groups in the future. All right, so that was the first of the 5 application steps. I love that we have 5 application steps. It gives us a lot to talk about, and it's a lot of things that we can take and
we could dive into the whole self-acceptance
yeah.
thing hugely because it's incredibly important.
Yeah.
And what Layla touched on, the idea of self-acceptance, that this is who I am, isn't an excuse for the things that I need to improve in my life, but it is a recognition that essentially how I'm made was God's plan. And when I become a Christian and I'm forgiven, in God's sight, I am perfect. So it's like positionally I am, even though practically I'm not. But God deals with me in such a way that he doesn't judge us for anything that might still need to be brought into alignment. He lovingly works with us so practically we can become more of like what we are positionally that God has saved us to be able to be. And just accepting that that's how I look in God's sight. He lovingly shepherds me through personal growth. always accepts me as I am. And if I'm going to be God-like, I'm going to be able to do the same thing about myself and others. That's really deep, good stuff.
Yeah, that is really good stuff. So the second one, embrace the beauty of God's gender binary. Dave, I know you talked about it in the message. Can you kind of just elaborate, explain this point just a little bit more in case anybody missed it?
Yeah. That genders, men and women, are different, right? They're different biologically. They're different internally. And they're also different functionally. That is, and this whole, I actually wanted to talk about this morning, but oh my goodness, this is such a deep subject. While both genders reflect the image of God, no question about it. There are a few things, or maybe more than a few things, that someone wired up by God to be feminine is able to reflect more strongly than someone wired up to be a man. And someone wired up to be a man more so than a woman. And it's only when both men and women come together, obviously in family, fundamentally, but then in culture, communities, churches, the whole world. Only when men and women work together and bring not only the overlap, but also bring the nuanced strength in expressing certain parts of God, that we get not only the fullest expression of God, but we are able to do the best and most good in the world. So it's critical that we accept God did this gender thing to bless us, to drive us together, to get us to appreciate one another and work together, because only together are we really able to do what needs to be done and what is best.
Yeah, for sure. What are some ways that we can embrace this? I know it kind of touches on the same thing that we talked about in the first action point. What are some ways that we can embrace this more?
I think the first thing that comes to mind to me is appreciating others' gifts. I kind of feel a little humbled here because I'm like, appreciate my husband's gifts, right? Because he drives me nuts at times, and I equally drive him nuts, right?
I probably drive my wife nuts too.
There's little things too that, like, I remember one time my dad needed help moving something, and he was so insistent that, like, Tony helps him, and I was like, why? Why can't I help? Like, because I'm a female, So I think it's easy, right, for me to get competitive in nature. So I really love how you just broke down, really, Dad, if both of us had helped moved whatever it was, it would have been the best, right? Which I let it go. But I love that breakdown of man and woman together, right? That the opposite genders together coming, because I think too, like, looking back, especially in the church setting, and I know you've talked about this in past topics and sermons, Pastor Dave, women, I think, weren't always, maybe as welcomed, or it was somewhat frowned upon to have women in leadership at the church. But I think that even is applied, through careers and, different organizations and things like that. So I think we've came a long way. I think we have a long way to go. And I personally think for me to continue to help, I want to, I have 3 kids. I want to continue to raise them as good human beings so that when they go out into the world, that they can be, lights of God and, help promote healthy examples and topics and whatnot. But I make mistakes all the time. I feel like that's what I say every single day or every single Sunday on this post show. Forgiveness, trying my best, soaking up the Word of God. I get, like, my gas tank gets filled up every Sunday from Pastor Dave and from you and from all of our sermons that we have. So that's, the first thing that come to mind is just continue to fill up my tank, be humble and honest with myself and with God and with others when I make mistakes, because I will make them. And just to try to be a great example to my kids so that, their generation, they can continue to enforce these positive things.
Yeah,
for sure.
First, great teaser for next week.
Yes, it was.
First.
I was saying it all the time. I'm
So
like,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
And isn't it amazing how in our fallenness, right? Because broken world, broken people, right?
Yep.
We're being restored by Jesus, but we're not fully there yet. That the very differences that God made to complement become conflict.
Yeah.
And so a part of, I think, the struggle, part of the call from God is to look at marriage is the best example because of the closeness, right? Is to look at some of the things that might irritate you and go, wait a minute. Maybe they irritate me in my brokenness because they're actually things that complement the situation. Mm-hmm. And if I would like gear down and listen, that there actually is a better way forward by combining the two of us together than just belittling it or dismissing it. I've often said that when it comes to Sandy and I, raising our kids, she was a protector. Right? She was about protecting her children. And I'm all about preparing our children. You got to be strong, whatever else. And we would have these conflicts over what should and shouldn't happen, right? And it's like part of that conflict is a failure on my part to be able to sufficiently respect that what my wife and her gender brought to the equation was just as critically important as mine. Yeah. And it's in learning how to balance those two that we best enable our children to be the healthy adults that Layla just described. Yeah.
I feel like these are going to be my rebuttal statements to Tony, like, this is my gender bringing this opinion to the table. Don't you dare disrespect it.
Oh, that's good. That's funny. That's funny. All right, well, the next one, and the reason why I'm opening my book is because I kind of forgot to make a slide that ties into this next one.
I got you.
So,
Number 3.
The third one, I do have the point. There was just another thing that was supposed to go along with this point. But the third one is to equip your children to weather the gender storm. And the slide that I was going to make was Pastor Dave this morning. He's like, hey, we got all these resources in the book. You can get it online, or if you have a physical copy, they're on pages 48 and 49. And I said, hey, which ones do you highly recommend? And one of them,
That's a hard question.
it was a hard question. I think it took him like a little over 5 minutes to pick because it was tough. I don't blame you. There's like 15 resources, I think, on here.
Awesome.
So, but the one that he picked especially for explaining this to your kids is Explaining Gender Identity to Kids, Parts 1 and 2, Foundations Worldview Video Podcast. And again, you can go on our website and you can see these resources, or if you have a physical book, you can open to page 49 and it is on there. So, with that being said, you're a mom of 3 kids. You're a parent. Elizabeth and I are a part of Gen Z, and in our middle schools right now, and we are in it. What are some ways that we can equip the kids and students within these generations today?
Can I modify that question?
Yes.
Which, of course, I will, no matter how you answer. But I want to ask you a question, Elizabeth. Okay. What are things that would be most helpful to you or your peers in navigating the waters of gender conflict, controversy, confusion that exist? What are the kinds of things that you would find most helpful in processing things on your own so you can come to a reasoned conclusions?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. It's a hard question to answer because everyone is so different in how they would best accept that.
Yeah.
But I think coming at it, and you touched on this in your message at towards the end, coming at it from like a loving place is like very important, especially in just kind of where our world is and where when I grew up, and when I was in like middle school and high school, people are so quick to get so offended by things that you say and the way that you say it, to where especially if you're like texting someone or if you're talking online, things can be so misconceived
so easily.
so easily, because I had this conversation with my dad and my mom. Right now, like if you text someone like my age or like a little younger, a period is like can be taken as aggressive. Like ending your sentence.
Oh, seriously,
with a period.
I didn't even know that.
Thank
you.
I'm like this is like a real thing because I've talked to people, and sometimes like my parents will text me and I'm like, they are mad at me, and it's literally just because of a period.
Because the period at the end of the sentence.
Proper grammar. I know, it's ridiculous.
It's
It's ridiculous, but
I need these
sometimes
lessons
like
too, apparently.
because it's just like seen as like, oh, like this is the end, like end of conversation, like.
You know what? I can see that now that Elizabeth
Yeah.
explains
No,
it.
that makes
That's
that
why
makes
whenever
sense.
I text
Yeah.
you guys, exclamation points, they're happy. I'm sorry. Like, that's just what it is.
Especially if
So,
they're
like,
in the masses.
yes.
Dave, your
But-
TikTok sucked. Smiley face.
But it's just like that. A lot of people try to have conversations that way because it's so easy.
Yeah.
But it can be taken so wrong just because of the way that someone can perceive that. And so I don't really know how best like specific people and like my peers would take it, but just coming at it from a place of love and patience, because a lot of people that are like dealing with these thoughts or these like I don't feel like I don't feel good in who I am, I can imagine that it's a very lonely, scary feeling because I mean everyone looks at you and sees like, oh, like this is how I look to everyone else, but it's not how I feel. Yeah. So it can be so scary. I'm sure like So I don't know. That's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, but that was a beautiful answer.
Yes.
Because love and patience are like, oh my goodness. Someone in that situation that you described really well. Fear, insecurity, all the emotions that have to go around with that. If our communication to them has any tone other than love and compassion and respect, it doesn't matter what we say.
Yeah.
Because it's an attack on a person that's already hurting and struggling. So I think that and communicating in a way that we really think, how would these words be heard? Which means you need to know people. Just like I didn't know about the period in texting, but boy, am I going to change the way I text now, right? We need to be aware, how do words or tones impact a person? Because we want to communicate God's heart as well as God's truth. Yeah. And if we don't do both, then we might as well not say anything at all. That was really a good answer.
Yeah, that was a really good answer. I mean, it kind of ties in with this. Like, one of the things I loved, I was in first service, so I didn't hear exactly how you might have worded it in second service. I'm going to imagine it was the same. But in first service, one of the things that you said, like, hey, just because they might be outside of what we view God's standard with this whole thing is, that doesn't mean that we discriminate them.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean that
right.
we physically abuse them, verbally abuse them. Like, no, like, our job is to show the love of God through our actions and through our words. So if we're doing that, like, nobody's going to come to Jesus whenever we're verbally and physically berating them. We have to show them the love of Christ through everything we do.
And they might be broken in a different way than others are, but we're all broken.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And to approach broken people as a broken person is essential. And if we can fight for people in a righteous way, it's exactly what we need to do.
Yeah, 100%.
And fighting against discrimination, violence, bullying of the trans community is absolutely what it means to love them as our neighbor, because no one should experience that right there. So that's good stuff.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive into the last point.
Okay.
And then we got to send you off.
I got to do this again.
You got to do it one more time for all the amazing people in third service. We can see them right there. They're worshiping right now. It's really cool. We have a TV. I know that you guys can't see it, but there's a TV. So we're watching Steve up there play his little fancy guitar and singing away. So, all right, the fifth one. Be a healthy gender influencer. What does this look like in our day-to-day?
I think, for me, just being comfortable in my own skin as a woman. I loved the verses that you shared in the sermon, Psalm 139, 13, and 14. I kind of feel like everybody has been created, obviously intentionally by God, right? But I think everyone in their own way has like a unique story behind them.
Oh,
so like
absolutely.
Like I have one, and I won't go on because takes a long time to explain, but like I was intentionally supposed to be here. Like I shouldn't be here, right? I am a miracle. I'm supposed to be here, and I like to remind myself of that often, right? Especially in my moments of defeat, but especially when I'm identifying myself as a woman of God. It's just a good reminder of He created me quirky and silly, and I have control issues and anxiety and stuff, but as a female, right? And I just try to embrace that and remember that, especially in my competitive moments with my husband or other males, like I can do it too, but it's just that for me, it's like a reminder, but it goes a little deeper. And again, I think everybody has this moment of like this connection with God of like why they're here and why they're the way that they are. Mine really means a lot to me. Like from the moment that I was created, I defeated all odds. Like I shouldn't be here. And so I like to have that as like my glue. I think that not only connects me with God, but then also connects me with my individual identity and gender. And I try to just live that and be an example. Yeah.
We are so glad you're here too.
Thank you.
And a key word there is gender influencer. Can I draw a distinction between an influencer and a crusader? Crusader makes this the thing that they're going to try to win. Our job isn't to crusade. Our job is just to influence by how we live, what we share, to try to help persuade people that can be persuaded to move God's way. And there's a gentleness, there's a love in that basically comes, I think, from the most part, it comes from trusting in God to be at work in people's lives behind the scene. I don't have to force anything. And if I try to, I only mess it up and make things worse. I lovingly influence, knowing that God, who loves people more than I can imagine, will be working behind the scenes to help bring them to Himself and to wholeness.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming in here. I know that you're about to have to go do this one more time.
Yeah, I do.
And to everybody watching, we're so glad that you're watching this. And again, we're talking about all these things because these are the things that are happening on the day-to-day within our community and within our society. And today, I know, Dave, whenever you picked like the topic of transgenderism, it wasn't to just highlight this one thing and bash this one thing, but it was to show love through that. And also, at the end of the day, it's one of the many identity issues that are happening within our society. I mean, there are countless people that are finding their identity in work or sports or their kids or their spouse. At the end of the day, we as a church, we want you to find your identity in God and in Christ, not in your gender or any of those other things that we listen. Just today, we just happened to talk about the hot button topic of transgenderism. So is there anything else anyone wants to say before we tune off for this Sunday?
I'm good.
You're good? Oh,
How do you
one
like
thing.
that? I'm good. You gave me the opportunity to take it.
There we go. I'm proud of you. One thing I didn't forget, if you have any questions at all, you can go to my3c.org and you can click submit a question at the very top. And then this Wednesday at 7 p.m., Dave and I, we will go, well, mainly Dave will answer them, but we'll go through your questions and just anything that you guys have, seriously, even if it's about any of the past topics that we've had, we are more than willing to answer those. We here at Connections are not afraid of your questions at all, and we really want to be able to answer them the best that we can. So, nobody else has anything?
And these questions are anonymous.
Yes.
So feel
Elizabeth
free
coming in for the save.
to ask any question that you have without the fear of feeling like you're going to know who it is.
We have no idea who asked these questions.
Yep, that's right.
Matter of fact, I throw one in there and go, Dave, can you figure out which one's mine? And he goes, yeah, it's the one that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, dang it. I should have put a period. I'm just teasing. All right, well, you guys have a fantastic week. We hope to see you guys Wednesday night at 7 p.m. for the Q&A. And if not, we hope to see you guys next Sunday. Bye, guys.